the dating world, you might meet someone with what we call crazy eyes. It's not a spooky creature or anything, just a way to describe when someone seems a bit off. This can happen to anyone, boys, girls, people who like boys, people who like girls, and everyone in between. They might seem normal at first, with regular conversations and little habits that catch your interest, like biting their lip or playing with their hair. But sometimes, you don't realize something is off until it's too late. Most of the time, you can get away without any problems, maybe just some weird text messages or seeing their car parked across the street from your house. But last Valentine's Day was different for me, and it made me wonder if I should ever try dating again. My friend James and I came up with a plan to avoid these situations. We called it the abort code, a simple signal we'd give each other before meeting someone new. It might sound silly, but we both had our share of weird dates that needed a quick escape. Before we went on any dates, my friend James and I had a secret plan just in case things got weird. We would have the message "How's your mom?" and them ready to send if things went wrong. It was a normal question that wouldn't give away that something was going on. This was because we had encountered some really crazy people who would grab our phones to make sure we weren't texting someone else. One time, I was technically messaging my mom, but the girl I was with, Julia or Jen or something, didn't believe me. Even after I explained, the night got worse. But back then, we didn't have the abort code, so I had to just go along with it. After that terrible night, James and I decided on a plan. Since we were best friends, we cared about each other's dates. We never planned dates on the same day, so we could help each other if things went wrong. If we got the secret message, it was time to take action. First, we would make a phone call, and the person who needed help had to act. There might be shock or even tears, depending on how crazy the situation was. We would make up a story about an emergency, like having to go to the hospital right away. Usually, the first step worked well. The person acting crazy might offer to come with us to help if they heard about a sad accident. But not always. Even crazy people feel uneasy around someone who's upset, especially if they just met them. If the first step didn't work and we didn't get an all clear in 15 minutes, we had to move on to step 2. This meant both of us had to pretend a lot, and we had to go to the place in person to show how serious the situation was. This part made everyone at the restaurant uncomfortable because we would make a big scene, acting like something really bad happened. By the end of our made-up play, we would be rushing out, leaving sorry messages behind. The only problem was that we couldn't go back to that restaurant for at least a year. We didn't want to risk the regular customers finding out about our act and ruining our plan. We only had to do the big scene once. Her name was Lucy or Lenore, definitely started with an L, I think. She looked embarrassed by our silly show, and so did everyone else around us, but it worked. She didn't even text the next day, so I thought we did a good job. Now, step 3, the last one, was like a last resort. We never had to use it, but we brought some medicine just in case. Whether we took it ourselves or had to give it to our crazy dates would depend on the situation. We hadn't figured it all out yet. Either way, we hoped it would make things end. It was still just an idea, after all. I know it might seem like going too far, but they say anything goes in love and war, right? That's what I thought, at least. About a week before Valentine's Day last year, a friend from work set me up with someone. He wasn't really a close friend, more like someone I knew for a short time, but he seemed nice. I usually don't like setups, but when he showed me a picture of the girl, I got interested. Yes, it might sound shallow, but she was beautiful, dark hair, dark skin, bright green eyes, and a smile that could melt a glacier. Maybe if I thought about why such a pretty girl like Rainey was still single, I could have made better choices that night. But my brain wasn't really working well then. Yeah, I admit, I wasn't thinking clearly. I learned my lesson, though. My friend James didn't like Valentine's Day much for his own reasons, but I still checked with him to make sure he had nothing planned. As expected, he didn't, so I set up a date with Rainey, the amazing girl. We texted a lot that week before our date, and I was getting more and more excited with each message. We talked about everything from favorite movies and music to school and, well, she even brought up things about, relationships. No funny business intended. During those days of messaging, I didn't notice any warning signs that she might be a bit crazy behind those bright eyes. Okay, looking back, I found a few hints in her messages, but like I said, I wasn't really thinking clearly. I should have noticed when she asked about my ex-girlfriends. "These girls didn't get how great you are," one message said. "You just needed to find the right girl," and stuff like that. Back then, things that seemed okay at the time sometimes made me feel a bit weird before we even met. But, it happens. Even though I was excited, I decided we should meet at the restaurant instead of me picking her up. She got a bit upset about it, but I didn't change my mind. I've had some awkward rides with people with crazy eyes before, so it was better than risking being stuck with them. It might sound kind of like a kid's way of thinking, but even if someone seems a bit crazy, I don't like leaving them without a way to get back home. Well, except for one time when I left money for a taxi, but that was because I was worried she might do something crazy on the way back to her place. When I got to the restaurant, Rainey was already there. It surprised me a bit because I came 15 minutes early to get us a table before she arrived. As soon as I walked in, ready to ask the person at the front to save us a table, I heard someone yell out our names from somewhere in the dining area. When I saw my date's head peeking out from a booth at the back of the restaurant, I got a bit shocked. I gave an awkward smile and a wave while everyone else in the place turned to look at me. I tried to ignore the laughs and whispers from the other tables, keeping my head down as my face turned red. Even though Rainey was excitedly waving and grinning as I walked over, I started feeling a bit uneasy about how the night might go. She looked really pretty in that red dress, and her dark hair hung down to her bare shoulders. "Hi, I began, trying to apologize for being late, but she interrupted me by giving me a big hug. It was so tight, it felt like she was squeezing the air out of me. Even though we had texted a lot, I wasn't ready for such a strong greeting. Seeing her in person, looking even more beautiful than in the pictures, made my logical mind take a back seat to that part of my brain that sometimes gets me into trouble. I know it's not something to be proud of, but what can I say? "It's so nice to finally meet in person," she said, finally letting go of her surprisingly strong bear hug. Yeah," I said with an awkward laugh, "you look beautiful." "Well, that's a strange way to start," she said, the big smile disappearing as she took her seat. "I'm more than just a pretty face, you know?" "Oh, I didn't mean to say. Oh my God," she laughed loudly, "you're so easy to tease. I was just joking with you, dude." "Ah, you got me," I said, feeling tense and a bit tired. "Good one." Every word she said felt like she was telling everyone in the room. It seemed like she was putting on a show to make everyone uncomfortable, including me. I never liked being the center of attention, even that time James and I had to do step 2. But that was different, it was supposed to be awkward on purpose. Plus, I felt braver when I was with my best friend, maybe a bit too confident. As soon as I sat down, I tried to quietly take my phone out of my pocket, getting ready to send James the abort code when I had the chance. With Rainey staring at me wide-eyed and not blinking, looking like she might burst out laughing any second, I thought it was best to be careful with my actions for now. Let me tell you, even though you might already know, I could tell I was on a date with someone who had crazy eyes, and this was probably the wildest one I'd ever seen. As things went on, my date kept staring at me. Even when the waiter came to take our drink order, I really wanted to leave. I asked for water, saying I had to work early the next day. But Rainey practically yelled at the waiter, telling him to bring me a Jack and Coke instead. Maybe it was my fault a bit because I had told her it was my favorite drink when we texted before. I tried to give the waiter an apologetic shrug, but he just looked confused. I think he knew I was feeling uneasy. "You want water?" she said, looking disappointed. "Really? I just don't want to be hung over for work. You know. Just call in sick or something. You're gonna have a late night tonight, if you play your cards right, of course." I almost jumped out of my seat when I felt her toes touching my leg. She had this mischievous smile on her face. The waiter, who was still standing there looking just as uncomfortable as I felt, finally backed away from the table. "I'll be right back with those drinks," he said, shaking his head. I just looked at him, trying to show my best help me face, before turning back to the wide-eyed woman whose foot was slowly creeping further up my leg. "I need to go to the restroom," I said, jumping up from my seat before my date could do something that would make it hard for me to stand up in public. I saw her looking upset for a moment before I hurried off to find the bathroom. Once I was in the clear, I sent a text to James, asking for help. I found a quiet spot in a stall and sat down, waiting for him to reply. Even though I knew James would wait for about 10 minutes before calling with our plan, I couldn't bring myself to go back to the table just yet. I even sent a few more messages to stress how urgent it was. After a few minutes with no reply from my friend, I started getting worried about being stuck there. I could have made up an excuse and left if I had to, but Rainie's behavior made me think she wouldn't let me off that easy. I thought about sneaking out when she wasn't looking, but something about her made me feel like she would get back at me for that. So, my safest option was the abort code. James had always helped me out before. I had to believe he would come through this time. Finally, almost 10 minutes later, I reluctantly went back to the table. I could almost see steam coming out of Rainie's nose as I got closer, making that tense feeling come back to my arms and legs. "I'm really sorry about that," I said, sitting back down and not looking at her. "Did I get you so excited that you had to go rub one out?" she said, looking more like a disappointed mom than an eager date. "What? No." I tried to explain. "There's no shame in it," she said, sipping her daiquiri. "Everyone does it." But I didn't. I had to. "Whatever, dude. You just better have enough left for tonight." I felt like I got caught in headlights, with her giving me a really serious look as she put her glass down. I ordered our food. "You took so long. I didn't want to wait any longer." "Oh," I said, not asking what awful thing she ordered for me. "Thanks. I really am sorry." Can't avoid the call of nature. I tried to laugh, but it wasn't really genuine at that moment. She just kept staring at me. "Well, now I have to answer a similar call," she said, getting up. "Don't leave while I'm gone." "That would be really rude." She spoke so coldly before walking off to the restroom that I felt stunned again. If my mind wasn't all over the place, I might have been better prepared for what happened next. I stayed frozen, looking at the back of the restaurant until she started coming back, and I only had seconds to send another text to James, hoping he would stick to our plan. "I need your help right now." I quickly texted James, hoping the big letters would tell him how much I needed him. I put my phone back in my pocket as soon as I sent it, just as my crazy-eyed date sat back down across from me. I gave her a smile, hoping it looked like I wasn't up to anything. But then, her purse started buzzing. She grabbed her bag and pulled something out, hiding it from me behind the table. When she looked up at me, her eyes had even more anger. She looked back down at her purse, tapping on her own phone, and then put the bag back on the table. "I could use another drink," she said, smiling again. "Yeah," I said, "me too." We started talking more normally, which felt way better than the weird stuff that happened earlier. Just when I thought things might be getting better, my pocket buzzed with James' notification sound. I hoped it was safe to check the message now that my date didn't look as crazy as she did a moment ago. "I'm sorry," I said with a real laugh as I looked at my phone. James said, "They are fine. How are yours?" Confused and a bit surprised, I sent him a "WTF, man," before looking back at the woman across the table. At first, I didn't fully get the smug look on her face. But when her phone buzzed, I started figuring things out. She looked down, tapped on the phone, and then looked back up after a second or two. After putting the phone back in her purse and placing it on the bench beside her, I got a reply to the text I sent: "Just focus on the gorgeous woman across from you, man. We'll talk tomorrow." So many questions popped into my head all at once. How did she get his phone? What did she do to get it? Where the heck is James? They were rushing into my mind so fast that my mouth couldn't catch up. Just as I was starting to get my voice back, the friendly waiter showed up with a tray of delicious-smelling food. "What's happening here?" I asked, and the waiter looked from me to Rainie as he put down the plates. "It's our food, honey," she giggled. "That's what happens in restaurants." Do you guys want anything else?" the uneasy server asked, still looking between us. "You know what I mean." "That's enough," my crazy date said, smiling as the waiter quickly backed away. "How did you get that phone?" I asked, getting really impatient with all this. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, mocking me. "Can we just eat already? I'm starved." "Don't change the subject. How did you get it? Did you steal it?" Did you hurt him? What's going on, you psycho? Dude, she said, reaching into her bag and pulling out her phone. This is mine, okay? She slid it across the table. I don't know this James guy. I grabbed the phone from the table and checked the messages. As I expected, there was nothing sent or received for the last few hours. Then who are you texting, huh? Who was texting you? Okay, A, this is our first date, and my personal life is none of your business unless I decide otherwise. B, I wasn't messaging anyone, I was shutting off my Facebook notifications. Bull! That's not true. Look, she said with a heavy sigh, I'm hungry. Can we just eat? We can figure out whatever is going on with you later, but I haven't eaten today, and I'm getting a headache. Even though the burger she ordered for me looked and smelled delicious, I wasn't believing what she was saying. I knew she had my friend's phone, probably still in her bag. But with all the people looking at me, I knew I had to calm things down. I needed to figure out what was happening, so I decided to go along with it. I had to make her feel at ease so she would drop her guard. I took a shaky breath, picked up my burger, and took a bite. My mind was working hard to plan the next steps. I'm sorry, I said. It was a long day at work, and I didn't mean to take it out on you. Her face turned back to a carefree smile as she grabbed her own dish. No, I'm sorry, she said. I'm just nervous. I've never felt this way about anyone before. Oh, yeah, me too, I lied, trying to keep things calm until I could figure out how to get to her purse. Do you believe in love at first sight? Her wide, unblinking eyes stared into mine again, and a smile spread across her lips. There was something in her look and words that made a cold sweat break out on my back and forehead. When the waiter brought more drinks without saying a word, my date kept staring at me with that creepy grin. I felt a strange kind of panic inside, telling me to run away before it was too late. I almost did that, but then I suddenly got really dizzy. Oh my God, are you okay? Rainey asked as my head flopped from one side to the other, and my eyes tried to roll back. I feel weird, dizzy. I mumbled. My heart was pounding, realizing what was happening, but my body and mind weren't on the same page. Ricky, my date said to the waiter, whose name I hadn't caught until now, need some help here. Took you long enough, he said. You sure about this guy? Oh yeah, she said, and I could almost hear her smiling as my head dropped onto the table. I just know he's the one. What did? I tried to say, but everything went dark. When I woke up from whatever Rainey had given me, my head felt really heavy. I blinked my eyes a lot, trying to get some moisture and see where I was. It wasn't until I tried to stand up that I realized how serious my situation had become. As soon as I realized my wrists, ankles, and chest were stuck to the chair with tight straps, it hit me how serious my situation was. The room was mostly dark, but I could see a bit of light from behind me. I struggled to break free, hurting myself on the rough, leather straps. But then, I saw I wasn't alone. James! I said, louder than I meant, not knowing if my captors were close. When I saw my best friend's bruised, swollen, and bloody face hanging there, tied up just like me, I got really worried. God damn it, James, wake up. I tried to keep my voice low, but with the panic making my heart race, it wasn't easy. When my friend started to move, slowly waking up, I let out a sigh of relief. Denny? What's going on? He said, lifting his head, his bones making crackling sounds as he straightened up. What? What the heck, man? Shoo. Keep your voice down. Just cool it, man. We gotta figure a way out of here. What is this? He asked, looking around, wincing from the pain in his swollen eye and bruised jaw. Do you remember anything? How you got here? Who kicked your butt? Shoot. I don't know, man. I was at home. No, someone was inside. I went to the kitchen, and something hit me. Knocked me out cold, I think. That's all I remember before, oh God. When dim lights flickered on above us, I tried even harder to break free, but the straps were so tight. I could tell James was feeling the same way when a door creaked open behind us, and light from the other room made shadows on the floor. Calm down, honey, Rainey said, strolling around the chairs we were tied to, with the waiter from the restaurant coming around the other side. You're gonna hurt yourself. Let us go, you crazy lady. Watch your darn mouth, the tall man said, hitting me on the jaw. Take it easy, Ricky, the crazy woman said, putting a hand on his shoulder as he pulled back for another swing. Don't mess up that pretty face too much. He just growled as he stepped back, standing next to her. I hadn't paid much attention to how he looked at the restaurant, but now I could see a similarity between my two captors. They both had dark skin, black hair, and big, green eyes. He was much taller than her, even with the heels she was wearing, and he was twice as wide. Though he still had on that white shirt, tie, and black vest, I could see his muscles under the fabric. After how hard he hit, it wasn't a surprise that he now seemed like a big, strong guy, not the friendly waiter he pretended to be. You sure this is the guy? He said, his words filled with anger. He looks weak, feeble even. Oh yeah. He's the one, for sure, the pretty brunette said, her unblinking eyes staring right at me. What is this, Rainey? What did she see in this jerk? The big guy said, ignoring what I was saying. He is kinda cute, Rainey said. She was always a sucker for the cute ones. Who are they talking about, man? James asked, still trying to break free from his straps. How should I know? They're crazy, these two. How the... Another hit from that big fist ended my attempts to make sense of the actions of crazy people. It made my already pounding head spin. This hit felt twice as hard as the last one, and my eyes crossed from the impact. Son of a jerk. James yelled, let me go, and I'll give you a real butt-kicking. Their crazy laughter made it clear they shared some kind of madness. Their angry faces turned into something wild, their wide eyes and open mouths drooling as they laughed, slapping their knees and choking on their loud chuckles. That was good, you're funny, the big man said, wiping tears from his eyes. James looked at me, and we both had bewildered looks. At that point, I just knew we were in big trouble. These two were not thinking straight. I was sure they wouldn't just let us go after a few punches. No, they had a plan. There was no abort code to save us from this, even if my partner in crime wasn't tied up next to me. Just let us go, I pleaded, my eyes filling with the reality of the situation. Yeah, we didn't do anything. James added, his voice cracking, we won't tell anyone about this. Just let. I was as surprised as my friend when Rainey's laughter suddenly stopped, and her hand moved so quickly to hit his face. None of us saw it coming. You didn't do anything, she screamed, veins pulsing at her temples, her eyes so wide I thought they might pop out any second. You think you're innocent? Do you really have no idea what you took from me? I was shocked, stuck in place, unable to move anything but my head. The angry faces in front of us made it hard to look away. We all just stared at each other in complete silence, even though time felt like it wasn't passing the way it should. Rainey was breathing really hard, her eyes locked onto my best friend's. I glanced between the three of them, feeling trapped in their company. The big man had a cold look as he blinked from me to James, back and forth like a swinging pendulum. His calmer demeanor was just as scary as the other two's wild postures. Then, Rainey moved in, hitting my friend again and again. I almost tipped my chair trying to reach him. Stop! I yelled, but her hands kept swatting. Blood sprayed from my friend's mouth and nose, landing on me and the floor. Left, right, her angry hands attacked his face, and he tried to say something between the hits, only managing muffled yelps. Please, just stop, I pleaded, hoping my softer tone would make her show some kindness. That's enough, Rain, the man said, gently holding her wrist as she tried to hit James again. For a moment, Rainey's furious eyes met the man's serious gaze. He tilted his head, questioning her. Her anger faded, her face softened. She took a step back, letting go of his hand, and stopped hitting James. Even though she didn't slap him anymore, the hits had been so strong that both of James's eyes were swollen shut. His nose was bent, bleeding, and his lips were puffy and split. He tried to talk, but only muffled sounds came out. James? I said, tears rolling down my face, please be okay, man. We're gonna get out of here, I promise. Somehow, we'll... No, Rainey interrupted, fixing her hair. You won't. You really don't know, do you? The man said. You really don't know what you did, what you took from us. I don't. I don't know either of you. I've never seen you before. No, the angry woman said, but can you really say we don't look even a little familiar? Huh? How can? My words got stuck when the big guy took a picture from his wallet. I instantly recognized the girl in the photo, who looked a lot like Rainey and the man, probably her siblings. Do you even remember her name? Rainey asked, trembling. I nodded, hoping it would help. Say it. Lucy, I said, feeling unsure. Try again, she demanded, pulling out a long, thin, serrated blade. Please don't do this. Say it, she screamed, pointing the knife at my friend. Oh, God. Please don't. I'm begging. Freaking say it. Christ. Lou, oh God. Lenore? James and I screamed together as she stabbed the knife into his thigh, blood pouring down his leg. Stop this. For God's sake. Say it. I don't remember. Okay. As the blade pressed against my friend's side, and blood spilled to the floor, I knew she wouldn't listen to reason, but I had to try. My chest thumped like a bouncing trampoline, and my stomach churned, fearing what might happen next if I couldn't find a way to stop it. Look, this is on me, not him, okay? Please don't hurt him anymore. Whatever you need to do it to me. Please, just let him go, I'm begging you. The light reflected off the shiny blade, flickering in the soft light from above as her arm dropped to her side. I don't remember her name, and I'm so sorry for that. I'm an idiot, I messed up. I know I embarrassed her, and I would be more than happy to make it up to her in any way she sees fit, but... She's dead, the man said, his voice shaking. Can you make that up to her? My heart felt like it stopped at those words. My thoughts were all over the place. Yes, I made a fool out of myself and her that night, but it was one date. How can I be held responsible for this after spending, a few hours in her company? As much as I tried to convince my lips to say these words, I was shocked by this revelation and everything else this night had shown me. Finally, after regaining my ability to speak, I asked the question that still haunts me. How did she die? She killed herself, Rainey said, holding up the blade still dripping my friend's blood, with this. Oh, my God. Why? Why would she do that? Why did? The waiter's knuckles put a quick end to my words, leaving my head spinning once again. Because of you, because of what you did to her, he said, wiping my blood on his shirt. Me? We just met for the first time that night. I mean, we'd been texting for a while, but we were just having fun. How can I? She was a fragile girl, Rainey said, her eyes glistening. She always had been. You weren't the first to leave her high and dry, but you were the last. She was so humiliated when she got home, I couldn't even hope to calm her down. She rubbed her eyes, trying to sniff back the tears. Her brother put his arm around her, attempting to console her, but his tears only fueled hers. She ran off to her room, but I tried to follow. She yelled at me to leave her alone, so I hoped she just needed a little time to let it roll off her shoulders. It wasn't the first time some heartless person had left her in tears, so I thought she would be alright after a while. When I went to check on her a little while later, the floodgates opened, transforming the confident and rage-filled woman into a sobbing, wailing child before me. I felt my chest burn from what she told me, as well as the sight of my captors spilling tears upon one another. Yes, her sister was a bit of an odd one, way more unsettlingly enthusiastic than she had seemed over text, but I would never wish this on anyone. When James responded to the first stage of our abort plan, she pretty much guilled me into sticking around. Everything inside me begged me to get going, but she seemed so broken when I told her I had to go, that there was an emergency and I had to get to the hospital. I thought she was just being dramatic, practically bursting into tears when I said I had to go. When I caved and decided to stick it out, she was even more clingy than before. It was maybe 30 or 40 minutes later when James showed up at the bar, as I had not sent the all-clear text. We acted out our ridiculous scene, turning every eye to us, but I didn't fully pay attention to my date, only played my part to run away like an insecure teenager. I can see it now, that image I had not registered at the time. The sight of that poor girl looking so crushed by what we were doing. When I turned to give one last look before I darted out of there, I could tell that she could see through our pathetic performance, that she understood I went to such lengths just to get away from her. Can you imagine what that would do to someone, even one who wasn't already a little disturbed? "I'm so sorry," I said, my eyes refusing to meet theirs as I spoke genuinely for the first time since I met the beautiful girl with the raven hair. "I swear I never meant to hurt her, to hurt Lacey." I can't say when it was that I remembered her name, but it caught the attention of the crying siblings before me. "I'll accept whatever you need to do, whatever you see as fit punishment. I've spent so long thinking about only myself, I never took The gunshot that echoed through the room, almost deafening me, took a second to fully register. Again, I felt frozen, mentally checking myself for wounds, when I looked up to see which direction the revolver was trained. I felt my eyes trace the waiter's shoulder to his wrist, to the hammer of the pistol, to its smoking barrel. When my gaze followed that course over to the gaping hole in the forehead of my closest friend in this world, the shock would not so much as allow me to scream out. "Now you can feel what we felt," the man said. "What it feels like to lose someone you love," his sister finished. No more words were spoken after that. No further punishment was given. No more hateful looks staring down at me. When the needle pierced my arm, I continued to just glare at the leaking corpse of my dearest friend, his vacant gaze being the last thing I saw as my consciousness drifted into darkness. When I awoke in my bed, it took me some time to put together everything that had occurred, along with how much time had passed since I left my home. Discovering that 3 days had gone by since I left out for that ill-fated date, I wasted little time in reaching out to the police. They would find no proof of the existence of Rainey Barnes, nor her siblings, for that matter. The restaurant doesn't even have any records of someone fitting the description of the waiter who served us that night. Witnesses recall overhearing some awkward conversation, a waiter helping an apparently drunk guest and his humiliated girlfriend out to their car, but nothing that would hold up in court. There wasn't even any luck tracking down the guy who hooked us up in the first place. Apparently, he had been working under an assumed identity, having quit his job the day of the 14th. Whether he may have been another sibling or someone else entirely, I'll likely never know. Upon inspecting the house, I spent just as much time as my own. They would find it empty, its owner having seemingly vacated over the past few days. James didn't have much in the way of family, neither did I, for that matter. Perhaps that's why we grew so close over the years. There was nobody to reach out to, nobody who may know where he may have gone. Nothing. The facts being as they were, all the police could do was file a missing persons report. Whether anyone believes me or not, I know what happened on Valentine's Day last year. While I've considered looking for the duo who ripped my life in two, I feel there's no sense in it. What's done is done. I told them I would accept their punishment for my actions, and perhaps they simply called my bluff on that. At the end of the day, it's like they say, all's fair in love and war. I suppose it's only right that I finally end up on the losing side of that argument. That was probably long overdue, all things considered. Did you enjoy the suspenseful twists in the story? Hit the like button if you did. Which part of the narrative intrigued you the most? Comment below and let's discuss. Want more captivating stories? Subscribe for regular updates and stay tuned. Did the story make you ponder unexpected consequences? Like and share if it did. Love a good mystery? Don't forget to subscribe and join our community for more thrilling tales.